So when we're first standing in the beginning of a match, we always want to be aware of two things. We want to be aware of the grips that we make and be aware of the grips that my opponent's going to make. It's one thing to just sit on our butt and get to our guard. If that's where you want to be, that's great. But if we let him get the grips that he wants to have and that he's comfortable with, and we don't make the grips we can have, like say if I'm here, I just let him get his grips that he wants, I sit in a bad way and I can just let him pass right away. We don't want this to happen. We don't want to let him establish his grips, because then it gives him a chance to pass. Now we're scrambling and the match isn't starting off on a good foot. We always want to make sure in the beginning of a match when we're standing, we're always being well aware of the grips that we're making and that our opponents are making. So from here in the beginning, you always want to make sure you're not allowing him to make his grips that he wants, excuse me. And from here, we want to make sure we establish our grips. Once we establish our grips, then we're going to be good to go into the guard pull here, but only once we're here. You don't want to be just scrambling into him, making the sloppy grips and sitting here, because now, without any grips, we can be into a scramble here, especially if the guy's good for moving side to side. It could be tough. Whenever we get into the guard, I always feel like one rule that's very important to have is having your grips, having a good solid position, because if we're just sitting on our butt with nothing here, the guy has all the opportunity to move and go wherever he wants. So when we go for the guard pull here, make sure we practice keeping our distance here. We don't want to get too close because there's the possibility for a takedown here and a foot sweep if we try to sit. There's a lot of 2 points that can be scored off that. So we always want to make sure we keep our distance, keep our hips back, and once we get our grip, make sure we look to pull fast from here. We can just sit to our butt. Keeping our distance, he's not scoring a 2. We're in our guard and we have grips, which is the most important part. Without grips, I'm giving him the opportunity to do more now. From here, all we're going to be doing is just pulling him into us, breaking his posture down, having this collar grip here, and working into the De La Riva from this position. It's never a problem to have both sleeves here, but I feel like it's easier for him to work on his posture and bring up his posture. So in the beginning, when you guys are sitting on your butt in an open guard-like position, I will always suggest that you control a collar here and a sleeve. Because from here, if the guy's going to try to posture, it's going to be a lot harder with this collar grip here, and it's easier to sit back, get a De La Riva hook, and put one right on the hip. In the beginning, when we have the De La Riva, to start, we always want to make sure that I keep the hook super tight. I'm gonna explain this a lot, but a lot of people tend to have floppy feet when they play from De La Riva. When you have floppy feet, it's not gonna be as effective. It's gonna be easier for the guy to bring his knee out and start causing me problems here. I always want to make sure that I keep the hook super tight and keep my foot flexed, making it hard for him to move his leg anywhere. And my opposite foot is just gonna stay on the hip, keeping the distance. The biggest part of the De La Riva and having success is making sure I keep the foot on the hip the entire time, conveying the distance. If I let him get too close to me, then I'm going to start having problems. My De La Riva is going to be less successful. If I keep him too far away and I overextend, then my game is going to be taken away. He's going to be able to posture up. So you always want to make sure that you get a good feel of the distance you want to have. You don't want him too close. You don't want him too far away. That's the beauty about having the foot on the hip right here, so you can keep him at the distance you feel most comfortable with. So one more time. When we're starting from stand-up, 2 things to watch out for. Watch out for the grips that he makes, and also be sure that you get grips that you feel comfortable with. And also make sure that you be careful with the takedowns you can go for. So that's why in the beginning of a match, you always want to make sure you keep your distance here. Be wary of him going for a foot sweep or a takedown from here. Make sure he can't make his grips, and once you make your grips, you can sit right from there. I still have my distance, I'm safe from here. We don't want to sit here too long though, because he can start going from side to side. We always want to make sure with this collar grip here that's breaking his posture, I can pull him down and get one hook on one side, my opposite foot step on the hip, conveying the distance and keeping him at a safe distance away from me. Okay guys, so the first submission we're going to be going on, or the first technique we're going to be showing from the De La Riva is just a basic triangle, starting from the standard De La Riva here. So we're here, we have our hook in. Remember, the biggest key to having a good De La Riva or a solid De La Riva position is to make sure we have a flexed foot. Floppy feet, it's going to be easy for the guy to bring his leg out, so make sure it's flexed. It's going to be hard for the guy to move his right leg anywhere. From here, my right foot on his hip here is going to be very important here, is I'm going to be kicking out and extending him, forcing him to post his hand on the mat. A lot of people here are going to think that he can push down, force reverse De La Riva, but if I kick straight out here and pull down on this collar here with my right hand, it's going to be very hard for him to push down on my leg and step over and try to pass from here, because he needs this hand to post on the mat or else he's going to face plant, which isn't going to be too good for him. So from here, I always want to make sure I keep this collar pulled down, breaking his posture, forcing his hand to the mat. Now from here, in this situation, I can let go of the De La Riva hook here and place my left foot on his hip. Now my right leg is going to start going around for the triangle, but I can't just be bringing the leg around. I need to lift my hips up, and then I start bringing it around. Make sure that you have your back of the knee close to the side of his ear here, making sure you're hanging on to this collar the entire time, and we lock on a triangle from here. We never want to have it locked almost like we have a closed guard here, because you see if we have a gap here, that's an opportunity for him to get out. If we have the shin to the back of the knee, that's when we know it's on. Now from here, we're just going to lift our hips up, bring the arm across. If it's on here, we have the finish, but if he's still hanging on, if he's not tapping, we always want to make sure we control the shin first, hold my own shin, and then step on the hip. A basic mistake that a lot of people make is that they let go and then grab on. But that little opening right there is an opportunity for him to get out. So always make sure before you let go of the triangle, we're grabbing onto the shin, letting go of the triangle, then stepping on the hip, turning, trying to face towards his ear, and then locking it back on. Pulling down, and we have the finish. So remember, one more time, when we do this, we want to make sure I have a flexed foot so it keeps his leg from being able to go anywhere. And my right foot is going to be firmly planted on his hip here. Once I extend, I'm going to make sure I pull down on this collar here to force him to post his hand on the mat. So once I kick out, I'm going to pull down here, forcing his hand to post on the mat. Without this, if I let go of this or if I just don't have a strong grip pulling down, it'll be easier for him to push over and force reverse De La Riva, which is not what we're looking for here. So from here, I want to extend, pulling down the collar, forcing his hand to post on the mat and keeping him from trying to force reverse De La Riva. From here, now my left foot is just going to step on his hip. I'm going to lift my hips off the mat and bring my right leg all the way around for the triangle. I'm going to bring my shin to the back of my knee, lift my hips up, bring the arm across, and from here we can get the finish. Remember, if it's not finishing the guy, if the guy hasn't tapped, we can adjust, holding onto the shin first, then letting go of the triangle. Stepping on the hip, turning towards while I want to try to face his ear here. Lock the triangle back on, pull down, and we have the finish from here. Okay guys, so now we have the triangle. The second option we have is going for the omoplata from here. Basically the same exact setup. We're going to be holding on the cross collar and sleeve. I'm going to make sure my foot is flexed, getting the De La Riva hook, and my right foot is to be planted on his hip. And now I'm going to extend him slightly to my right side, turning to my right and pulling down on his collar, forcing his hand to post on the mat. Because if we turn to our right, there is the opportunity for your opponent to try to force reverse De La Riva as long as we don't have this collar. But if I do have it and I extend him, then he's not going to be able to because he has the post on the mat here. So pulling down is obviously very important, not only for the triangle, but for this omoplata as well. Now from here, my left foot is going to step on the hip, just like before. I'm going to lift my hips up, but now with this grip here, I'm going to turn his hand downward, almost into like a Kimura position, and now my left knee is going to go right over his shoulder here, clamping down, making it very tight. It's one thing for people to go from omoplata and just simply bring the leg over. But that's an opening there. That's an opportunity for a guy to bring his arm out. We want to make sure each step is tight as can be, especially once you get to the high levels, especially once you have a tough match in competition. You want to make sure each detail is very tight, very precise. Because one little detail that's not precise could lead to an opening, could lead to the guy getting out, could lead to a missed opportunity that you might not be able to get back. So always make sure that we take advantage of these opportunities, and this is one of them here. So once we're here, I'm making sure I bring my knee down to his shoulder here, making sure it's tight, and then I step my leg over and work into the omoplata here. Getting the figure 4, we're good to go. Now, obviously from the omoplata, most of the times people end up with the sweep, but there are ways of getting the finish. One way, my left hand is going to hold on to the pant leg here. My right hand is going to grab onto his belt, or if you have a tough time grabbing onto the belt, you can grab onto the skirt of his gi or his pants here. But if I have the belt, I'm going to use that. I'm going to start pushing his legs out and pulling his hips into me. Bring his back flat on the mat, and I'm going to extend my legs forward. From here, now we have the perfect opportunity with his stomach on the mat. I'm going to bring my arm over. I'm going to bring both my feet to my right side, and now I'm just going to lean in towards his ear, and we have the finish from here. So one more time. We're going to be doing the same exact thing going into the triangle, except this time going into omoplata. From here, I'm going to be extending him, emphasizing pulling down on this collar here to force his hand to post on the mat so he can't step over. My left foot is just going to step on his hip just like the triangle before, except this time when I lift my hips, I'm going to use this grip, and I'm just going to push down, almost like going into a Kimura-like position from here. My left knee, keeping it tight, is going to go right on top of his shoulder, pinching my knees together over his shoulder here, and I'm just going to step my leg over. Figure 4, we have the omoplata from here. Now to finish, from here, my left hand is going to hold on to his pant leg. My right is going to reach all the way across, and it's going to grab onto his belt here. If you have a tough time grabbing onto the belt, you can grab onto the pants, or you can grab onto the skirt of the gi, but if I have the belt, I'm going to take that. My left hand is going to push out, and my right hand is going to pull him in, bringing his stomach to the mat here. Now from here, I'm going to extend my legs, bring my arm over, keeping him from rolling, bring both my feet to my right, we'll lean in towards his ear, and we have the finish from there. Okay, so from here, we have our two options. We have three options. We have the triangle, we have the omoplata, but then we also have a sweep that can lead into a leg drag position. We're going to have the exact same setup, except this time we're going to be looking for an ankle pick. From here, I'm controlling the sleeve and the cross collar, and I'm just going to extend slightly to my right, turning from my left to my right. And I'm going to force with this hand on the collar, I'm going to force his hand to post on the mat. So I kick out, and I extend. But from here, now we're just going to sit up along with him. From here, if you see his leg is extended, I have the opportunity, as soon as I let go of this collar, to control his ankle here. And in one motion, when I let go of this hand on the collar and I reach for his ankle, my left hand is just going to post on the mat. And I'm going to take a short step back, so I give myself enough space to get the takedown from here. So I sit up, and from here, I'm going to start reaching across, or bringing his leg across, and driving forward, bringing him to the mat. The reason why I like to bring his leg across is so that I can start looking for the leg drag right away. As soon as I come up on top here, I'm starting to bring the pressure, keeping tight from here, looking for a leg drag. Whenever I go for a sweep, whenever I come up on top, I'm always going to try to find a position where I'm already in a good position to pass. Adam's got a really good guard, really tough to deal with. And if I just go for the sweep and I just keep the leg on the side, now I have to deal with his guard. And then it's like it can go back and forth. That's how matches nowadays go. We get a sweep, guy gets into his guard, we sweep, he gets into his guard. It's just going to keep going back and forth. Once we get a sweep, we always want to try to look into getting an advantageous position right away. So once we go for this takedown, we have his leg in our hand. Just bring it across. We can start getting the leg drag from there. Before we even get the sweep, we're already almost getting the pass. So again, we're going to be doing the same exact thing as the triangle and the omoplata. I'm going to be extending him to my right, driving down, pulling down on this collar, forcing his hand to the mat. And from here, I'm going to sit up. Now in one motion, as soon as my hand on my right hand lets go of the collar and grabs onto his ankle, my left hand is going to post on the mat. And in one motion, I'm just going to stand up and take a short step back. So I'm going to post on the mat, step back, reach for his reach for his belt here, reach for his pants, and start driving forward. As soon as I'm here, you might not be able to establish a perfect leg jack position, but as long as you get to a position where both of his legs are on one side and you have good control from here and you feel comfortable, then you're in a good opportunity to pass. If you start going into a position where he's in attacking position, then we're going to have to work harder from there. Once we get here, we're good to go. We're good to start looking for the pass from here. Okay guys, so now we're going to be starting from the De La Riva position when the guy is in the standing position. We've done a few techniques where the guy is on one knee, but this situation, the guy is going to be standing here. From here, we're going to be looking for the same exact thing. I'm going to be getting my De La Riva hook here with my left foot and my right foot. My foot is going to be planted on his hip or on his quad here. Also, another detail that you guys want to take into consideration, which will help a lot and will help keep your De La Riva tighter, is if you turn your knee in slightly, forcing his knee to turn in. When you turn his knee in, it makes it harder for him to turn his knee out, and one way that people like to try to break the De La Riva is turning their knee out completely here. So try to keep the foot flexed with the hook and also turning the knee in, which will make it a lot harder for the guy to move around, move his leg. From here, with my right foot on his hip, I'm just going to extend and sit up in one motion. Now from here, looking for the takedown, in one moment, or in one movement, I'm going to place my left hand on the mat, and my right hand is going to hook right around his leg. From here, we want to make sure we move quick. We don't want to be sitting here for too long. So as soon as I switch, one hand on the mat, the other hand's going to come around. I'm just going to sit my butt up, and I'm going to kick my left leg back. So here, I'm going to extend, boom, and now I'm just going to lift my butt up and kick my leg back from here. Now from here, we still have control of the leg. And as soon as we're here, we want to start looking to drag the leg across and look to get into the leg drag position. Once we're here, we don't want to just settle coming up on top. A lot of people get sweeps and they're just like, okay, I got the sweep. As soon as you're there, don't stop. As soon as you come up on top, start looking to pass right away and start looking to get in an advantageous position from here. So one more time. Starting from the De La Riva. We have our hook in, trying to turn the knee in, keeping the guy from being able to do much with his leg, being able to move. And my right foot is going to be planted on his hip here. Now from here, I'm just going to extend and sit up. In one motion, I'm going to place my left hand on the mat. My right arm is going to hook around his leg. I'm going to lift my butt off the mat and kick my left leg back. Still having this leg, I'm going to start circling to my right and looking to get into a leg drag position. Not every time you guys are going to end up in a leg drag position, but as soon as you guys got to come up on top, you always got to practice, as soon as you come up, looking to pass right away. If you settle, if you just come up on top and stop right there, then it's going to be tough, and then you got to work from his guard. As soon as you come up on top, whether it's a knee cut across from reverse De La Riva, whether it's a leg drag, you guys got to make sure as soon as you come up, you start attacking right away and looking for the pass. We don't want to just keep on staying in neutral game where we go from my game to his game, to my game, to his game, or else the match is always going to stay close. We want to look to get a pass right away, take him off guard. As soon as you come up on top, start looking for a pass right away. You have a good chance of scoring more points. So another takedown we can be starting up from the De La Riva is just a simple single leg. We're just going to work on standing up into the single leg takedown from the De La Riva. So from here. Now from here, I like to change my grips. I don't like to be controlling the collar here. I want to be controlling the sleeve. And from here, this also brings up a good point of changing your grips when you're in De La Riva. Depending on the size of the person, the grips are very important. When you're with a smaller guy, it's okay to be grabbing on to the ankle and to the collar because they don't have as much strength to pull you around. But I feel like when we fight in absolute divisions, especially in the feather and light featherweight divisions, controlling onto the sleeves can be very important. If you just continue to hang on to these grips here, or anywhere you feel comfortable, just without controlling the sleeves, I feel like it's easier for the guy to control onto your pant legs and start moving you around. It's easier going to be to control both pant legs at him, and then start moving around and passing the guard here. So I feel like with bigger guys, it's better to control the sleeves the entire time. Keep them from being able to use their hands. Maybe they can try to move around, but without being able to make their own grips, it's going to be very hard for them to do anything from there. So controlling the sleeves is very vital. And also this will help in this technique. From here, starting from the De La Riva, I like to control onto both sleeves here. And in one motion, just like before, I'm going to kick out my leg. It's planted on the hip. And my left hand is going to reach underneath. And I'm going to transfer the grip I have with my right hand over to the hand with my left. Now from here, instead of like the last technique where I went out to the outside to my left, I'm going to be facing into the right, and my right leg is just going to hook behind his leg here. And from here, with this grip and with this leg position I have, I'm just going to stand up, and I'm getting into the single leg position here. I never like to keep my head on the outside, only until the very end. On the inside here, it's going to keep me from getting any type of choke. So if I keep on the outside here, I stay here, he can start working for the guillotine from here. I want to make sure I keep my head on the inside. And now once I feel comfortable, I'm going to clasp my hands together, palm to palm. From here, we're going to start looking to get shoulder pressure. And in one motion, I'm going to step forward, step back, and then this will be the one moment where I bring my leg to the outside, where I bring my head to the outside. Look, and down. From here, we still have control of the leg. We're going to start looking for a pass right away, whether that's here, or we start looking to force reverse De La Riva and driving far forward. Either way, start looking for the pass right away to stay in the advantageous position. One more time. We're starting here with both sleeves. Controlling the guy. If he's a big guy, this is a better opportunity to keep him from passing. And from here, I'm just going to, with my right foot, I'm just going to have it plant on the hip. I'm just going to kick out. My left hand is going to grab on to his right sleeve. I'm going to post with my right hand on the mat. I'm going to bring my right leg behind his ankle. And from here, once I feel comfortable in this position, I'm just going to stand up with the single leg in place. Once I feel comfortable, I can let go palm to palm, and keep my shoulder down on his quad here. Once I feel comfortable from here, just step forward with my right foot, and I'm going to step back with my left. And then from that moment, I'm going to look on the outside and bring my right shoulder down onto his quad here, driving him down to the mat. Now you can either start working the pass from here, looking for reverse De La Riva, keeping the head down low, or once we're here, start looking to pull out and come into the leg drag position and start looking for the pass. From here, we're going to be looking to take in from De La Riva, controlling bond to both sleeves, going into the one leg X position. So from here, just like before, we have our same grips. We're controlling onto both sleeves, which I always try to use when I'm fighting bigger opponents, keeping them from being able to make their grips on my pant legs, keeping them from being able to try to pass from side to side. So always controlling on the sleeves here, especially with the bigger guys. From here, the same exact grip, same exact feet position we've had before. One foot is flexed, keeping the De La Riva hook, with my knee turned in, keeping him from being able to move his knee from side to side and get his leg out. And my opposite foot is just going to be planted on his hip and on his quad here. Like always, make sure you guys, and also practicing conveying the distance here. Never letting him get too close, never letting him move too far away, keeping him close with the hooks, keeping him close with our grips here. Same thing as before as well. With my right foot on the hip, I'm just going to kick him out, and I'm going to sit up. From here, just like before, I'm going to dive his arm in between his two legs, and my left hand is going to reach underneath, and I'm going to control his sleeve here. From here, with my right hand, I'm going to post on the mat. I'm going to scoot my hips to my right so I can bring my left shin in front of his right shin. So I post here, I move out to my right, and I go shin to shin. From here, it is very important that we keep the shin to the shin the entire time when doing this. If we give him space, it's opportunity for him to kick the leg out and start looking to smash my guard and try to pass. From here, whenever we're in shin to shin position here, we always want to make sure that I keep in contact the entire time. So if he tries to move his leg, I'm going to stay with it the entire time. So if he keeps trying to move, I'm going to keep that shin firmly planted on his shin. Now here, I'm just going to start leaning back. I'm going to start lifting up my shin, bringing up his leg as well. And from here, I'm going to pull him in, right over me. I'm going to make sure I plant my foot right on his hip, keeping my toes turned out. I'm going to lift my hips high up. I'm going to control onto both pant legs here. My left hand, my left arm, I want to make sure I clamp down tight on his leg so it's hard for him to move his leg anywhere. And to start looking for the sweep or potential sweeps from this position, I'm just going to control with my right hand right in the front of his pants here, and we're in good position from here. I want to make sure I keep my knees pinched together. If I keep my knees loose, it's easy for him to bring his leg out or start looking for the pass. And I also want to make sure that I keep my hips high up. Once you're in this position as well, you can keep your hips high up and start bringing down your legs, making it very heavy on his leg and keeping him from able to move or try to pass at all. So from here, we're in good position to start looking for sweeps and get points from there. One more time. Same thing as before. I'm controlling onto both sleeves here, and I'm looking to get the proper delta heave position. I'm turning my knee in, have my foot flexed, have my foot on the hip. From here, I'm going to extend my right leg and sit up. And just like before, I'm going to dive his left arm in between his two legs, and my left hand is going to control onto his sleeve here. From here, I'm going to post my hand on the mat and scoot my hips out to my right. So I post, scoot, and I bring my shin to his shin. Now remember, the biggest key for this position here is if he tries to move his leg, you keep following his leg with your shin. So move your leg. So I always want to make sure I follow him here. If I let him just lift his leg without following him, it'll be easy to pass. When we're here, always make sure you follow him, and then once you feel ready, lift his leg up, pull him into you, and we're in the one leg X from here. One hand, my left arm, is just going to clamp right down, keeping him from able to move his foot. My other hand is just going to control it here so he has a tough time stepping back. He's really going to be stuck in this position here. I want to make sure my hips are high up, and then I'm keeping my knees pinched together from here. Also make sure, a lot of this could be a common position where people get DQ'd for reaping in competition. Make sure that you're keeping your foot on the hip, keeping the heel, and not going too far over. You want to keep right here and not much further than that. From here, we're in good position to sweep and start looking to advanced positions. So now we're going to be working from the Delahiva and taking the back. One of the basic ways of taking the back that I like. So we're going to be starting from the standing position here. And we're going to be looking to control the belt just like we're going into the berimbolo. But first what I want to explain is a lot of people like to just grab here and control onto the ankle and sit here and wait for the opportunity to take the back. But this isn't the best way of doing so. We always want to make sure that we're making different grips, because if I just sit here controlling onto his belt and controlling on his ankle, think of two things. I'm not controlling his posture. He even with this belt grip, he can still sit up fine. And at the same time, I'm allowing him to do whatever he wants with his hands. He can start controlling onto my pant legs, start breaking, and start looking to pass and go to the side here. It's not always as easy as that looked, but we want to make sure that we have better control of the guy, just not allowing him to go anywhere. And just sitting in this position isn't always the best thing and could lead to problems later on, especially if we sit here for too long with someone maybe bigger than us, stronger than us, and it's just fast and good at passing. So what I suggest is that we always try different grips, whether that's controlling both sleeves so that he can't make his grips with his pant legs, on my pant legs here, or controlling out the collar, breaking his posture. From here, you can also place a foot on the bicep, breaking his posture here, and also bringing one shoulder higher than the other, which is also uncomfortable for the opponent. So what I always suggest is just making different grips, controlling onto the sleeves, controlling onto the collar, moving him around, breaking his posture, never letting him just getting settled. Once you feel comfortable to take the back, then you start reaching. But as soon as you make that grip here, you gotta go. You don't want to sit here for too long. So we're gonna make the grips, we're gonna play around, change it around, throw them off, grab onto the belt, and control the ankle. And now from here, we're gonna start moving. My right foot on his hip here and on his quad here is just gonna slightly push. Now it's gonna post on the mat. I'm gonna start turning towards his backside here, and my left leg is gonna shoot across, and my left foot is just gonna place right on his left quad here. Now from here, I'm gonna keep scooting over until I square up with him, and at the same time, I'm gonna bring my right foot to the back of his right knee. So here, I bring it behind, and I square up with him here. Make sure that you keep your feet flexed the entire time, keeping him from being able to move his legs as easily. If you keep your feet floppy, it's easy for him to step over and start causing problems. So keep the feet flexed, and if you have to, start reaching up, both hands on the hips here. Now in one motion, I'm going to start pulling his butt in towards me, and I'm just going to kick out. Make sure from here that you keep your feet flexed as well. You're not going to be able to hold them here the entire time, but while you're getting the seatbelt and while you're getting the hooks, if you keep your feet flexed, it's going to be hard for him to kick his legs out. So that's one. The second part is making sure you get the seatbelt right away. The most important thing of having the back, besides having the hooks, is making sure that you have a good control from the chest to back here. If you can have this position right here, the guy can move as much as he wants, even without the hooks, but you'll still be on his back. And from there, once you have the opportunity, you get the hooks in for the back. One more time. We're making sure that we're not just controlling onto the belt, controlling onto the ankle. We want to make sure that we're moving our grips, throwing the guy off, getting him confused, breaking his posture, controlling both hands on the collar, keeping one foot on the bicep, one foot on the sleeve, however you feel. Just make sure you keep switching the grips up, never stop moving, and also don't let him make the grips that he wants. So like I said before, just sitting here, letting him control your pant legs is only a recipe for disaster. So once you feel comfortable, once you feel like you've thrown him off, then you start reaching for the belt. Grab up to the front. It's easier to grab instead of grabbing far on the side where you really have to reach for it. From here, my right foot is just going to push on his leg slightly. I'm going to post my foot on the mat, and I'm going to start bringing my left foot right on his left quad here. Now in one motion, I'm on my left hip. I'm going to start bringing my right hook, my right foot to the back of his knee, and at the same time, I'm going to square up with him, facing his behind here. From here, I want to make sure I keep my feet flexed. Remember, if it's here, it's opportunity for him to step back, and it's going to give him more space to get out. Make sure you keep your feet flexed. If you have to, both hands can reach up to the hips here, and now we're just going to pull his butt into you and kick his legs out. Before you even take the back and before you get the hooks also, make sure you get the seatbelt and that you keep your feet flexed here so it's hard for him to kick his legs out right away. And as soon as he does, start looking for the hooks. And from here, we got the back and we're in a good position to finish. So now, guys, we're going to start working on going into the berimbolo, but first I want to really break down like the details of how to make proper grips going into it and bringing the guy down to the butt. A lot of guys always say they think the toughest part is spinning underneath, you know, and taking the back from there, but actually the toughest part in the berimbolo is actually just bringing the guy down to his butt. Sometimes when he's standing, he's going to have a good base. It's tough from there. The spinning part is actually the easy part. So now let's break down the grips and the tough part, which is bringing the guy down. So we're here. And like I got into a little bit in the last technique, one thing that a lot of people think that is good is just hanging onto the belt and hanging onto the ankle here and just staying here. But two things that we're messing up here is now he's got good posture. He can posture even if I have this grip, and he can also do what he wants with his hands here, making his grip starting to look to pass, especially when we fight in absolute divisions, controlling onto the sleeves and just having simply better control of his posture and of his grips makes it so much easier to keep your guard. If we just let him make whatever grips he wants or whatever posture he feels, then it's going to be very hard for me to even get the berimbolo from here. When we go for it to begin with, we want to make sure that I'm making grips, and then right at the last second, then I go and I start going into it. We don't want to be sitting here for too long. All right? So a few grips that you can make setting it up. Obviously, we've been working on controlling onto both sleeves here. This keeps guys from being able to make their grips that they feel comfortable with. It's going to be harder for them to go for Toriano passes, and I'm going to be controlling them a little bit from here. Another way we can control is controlling onto the collar here. Another way, controlling onto both hands on the collar, and my foot is just going to go right into the bicep. Any way you can break the posture here, this is one way of doing so, pulling him down and lifting up. So even if he tries to move his arm, you could just follow here. What's really nice about this one here is that he's going to start becoming distracted with this arm here. He's going to be like, what the heck, I can't get this arm out, and then we start reaching here. It's about throwing the guy off. If we just sit here, he knows exactly what's coming the entire time, and he's going to be ready for it as soon as we start going to it. So the berimbolo won't be nearly as effective. But if we get his mind off of it, start going into different things, start threatening for other things, he's going to start worrying about other things besides the berimbolo, and then that's our opportunity to go into it. Another grip we can also make is controlling the lapel here right on the bottom and bringing it through here to my left hand here. That will really keep his leg, not only if I turn my knee in, now his leg is going to have a hard time moving in or out, and he's really going to be stuck in this position here. We can control here. You guys can really play around. There's many different grips you can play with. So that's why I would not suggest just holding onto the belt and just staying there until you feel comfortable. Make sure you play around with grips, throw the guy off, and then we can go into it. So once we get here, and once we make our grips, however you feel, controlling both hands on the collar, one foot on the bicep, both hands on the sleeve, one and one. As soon as you're done playing all those grips and you feel ready to go, we're just going to grab the front of the belt here. And then we're going to bring the foot to the hip. From here, in this position, we want to make sure that we bring him off his base. A lot of guys think that they're just going to be going like this, it's not going to work. And also another thing that people like to do is step on the mat here. This is the worst thing you could do, because now I'm just leaving my right side completely open for him to start cutting across and start looking for the pass. And I have no reverse L he would even go to, because I place my foot on the mat. We're in big trouble when you do that. So you never want to rely on placing your foot on the mat when you go from here. From double guard pull, maybe so, but from here, you don't want to be doing that. From here, I'm going to keep my foot on the hip the entire time. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly pull him into me, taking him off his base here. If I just let him stay firmly planted, it's going to be hard for me to move from here. I don't have enough leverage behind it. So from here, I'm just going to slightly pull him into me, and I'm going to kick him out to my left, extending my legs in that direction. Pull in, and kick out. And from here, I'm going to start shooting both my feet across to his left hip here, and we're in good position to start spinning underneath and start looking to take the back. Also notice from here, I'm keeping my hips on him the entire time. I'm keeping my feet on his hips the entire time. I'm never letting go, never giving him any bit of space. So you're stand up. From start to finish, I'm pulling him in, kicking him out, bringing his butt to the mat. I'm going to bring my feet all the way across. I'm never not making contact. As soon as you don't make contact, if you keep your foot out here, he's going to start pushing away. And say once you start spinning underneath, now it's not going to be effective. Now you're going to be too far away, and it's not going to be a good berimbolo. He might end up getting good position out of it in the end. You always want to make sure that you keep your feet in contact with his hips and legs the entire time if you want the berimbolo to be effective. Now we're going to start working on the exciting stuff and start working on the basic berimbolo. So, from here, Like I said before in the last technique, just controlling onto the belt and controlling on the ankle isn't always going to do it. With a smaller guy, maybe you can get away with this and be able to just control from here and wait for your opportunity to go for the move. But most of the time, when you're going with guys who have good guard passing, might be stronger than you, might be a little bit bigger than you, if you just control onto the belt, control onto the ankle here, you're giving him the opportunity to have good posture and be able to do what he wants with his hands here, which could lead to other guard passes, which could lead to scrambles. Either way, it's not going to be good for this move. So, like I said before, making sure you have different grips, controlling onto the collar, controlling onto the sleeve, putting the foot in the bicep, breaking his posture, moving him around. That'll throw him off. And then once you find the opportunity, then you start going. And we don't want to sit here for long. So once we're here, I'm going to grab onto the front of the belt. Like before I said, grabbing onto the side, you're always trying to reach, and it just takes too much time. Sometimes it could cause problems. Sometimes the guy's going to know what's coming by that point. So just simply grabbing onto the front, we're good from there. From here, to take him off balance, I'm just going to pull him slightly into me. Remember, if I just try to pull him over to the side here, I don't have enough leverage to bring him to his butt from here. I want to try to take his balance off his feet and start pulling his weight in towards me a little bit. Once I pull his weight in towards me, then I'm going to start kicking out to my left and bringing him to this butt here. I'm going to extend my legs and almost keep my feet flexed so it's going to be hard for him to move and scoot even further back. And if he scoots back, I'm almost just going to be following him from here. Now, once I start spinning underneath, one mistake that people tend to make is they spin and they're too far away. And now they're reaching and it's not going to be as effective. When we spin underneath, we want to make sure I bring my head as close to his hip as possible. So I'm really underneath at this point. From here, I don't want to be reaching across and grabbing onto his ankle here. I want to be reaching across and controlling his hip. The closer I am to his hip, the better chance I will end up on his back right away. So as soon as I start throwing him, I'm going to bring him down into my right. I'm going to be closer to his back from here. If we control the calf here, once I bring him over, I'm going to end up too low down on his back. It's going to be hard for me to reach up and take the back. From here, if we do end up a little low, we can grab onto the back of the collar, pull ourselves up, chest to chest. We want to make sure we try to keep our shoulders aligned. We already have one hook. We get the second hook from here, get the seatbelt, and we're good to go. Say we start from this position here where we control onto the belt, control onto the ankle. I can just simply pull him into me, taking his balance off, and then throw him to my left, bringing his butt to the mat, extending my legs. Remember, also, I'm keeping my feet in contact with his hips and legs the entire time. If I leave contact, that gives him a space to try to push out, escape, start causing problems, and I'll lose my position from here. So always make sure you keep contact the entire time. From here, I'm going to start bringing my head towards his hip, keeping it tight the entire time. Remember, if I spin underneath and I'm too far away, now I'm really reaching across, and it's just not going to work from here. If I try coming up, I'm going to be too far away. When I spin underneath, I really want to try to keep my head right on his hip, and I'm going to reach across. Not only is my head going to be close to his hip, but so is my left hand here. I don't want to reach for his calf here. I want to reach across and control his hip. Now in one motion, I'm going to pull down and across to my right and exposing his back here. If we end up a little low, that's not a problem, so long as I grab onto the back of his collar, pull myself up. From here, I want to make sure I have chest to chest. I'm keeping my shoulders on the same length as his shoulders. Get the second hook in, get the seatbelt, and we're good with the 4 points. Okay guys, so now we're going to work on the first variation off the berimbolo. Sometimes when you go for the original one, you don't have enough momentum behind it, so there's one option that I like, a leg variation that helps me take the back easier. So we're here after we make our grips, after we play around for a while throwing them off balance, we make the grip grabbing onto the front of the belt and grabbing onto the ankle. And from here, the same thing as before. I'm pulling him in towards me, and I'm kicking him out towards my left. Once I bring his butt to the mat, then I start spinning underneath. And from here, I can take the back, but now we have another option. From here, I'm going to bring my right knee to the back of his knee here to create some space. And with that space, I'm going to bring my left foot in, and I'm going to place right on his calf here, creating enough distance. From here, I'm going to be bringing my hips closer in towards him, and I'm going to scoop my leg around, bringing my right shin to the back of his knee here. From here, we can almost use my left leg as like a pendulum, and I can have enough momentum to kick down and have his back exposed right away. From here, we should be right on his back here. Go chest to back with the seatbelt. We have one hook in. Bring the second hook in. We got the 4 points. Always make sure you also keep your head close to him. If you're too far away here, that means your chest is away. More opportunity for him to move. You always want to make sure you stay nice and tight on him. Never give him any space to move. Remember, we always want to emphasize, any little space on a good guy can lead to openings, opportunity, and lost opportunities. And in tough matches, you might not get opportunities back. So you always got to make sure you take advantage, keep everything as tight as can be. Okay, so one more time. When we're in this position here, we want to make sure we're playing different grips, not just sticking with the one hand on the belt here, one hand on the ankle. Make sure you control under the sleeves, under the collars, breaking his posture, breaking his grips. From here, once we get here, I'm going to start pulling him in, bringing him down to his butt. From here, make sure your feet are on the hips the entire time, and now we can start spinning underneath. Now, when we reach across, instead of just pulling him over like we did before, I'm going to bring my right knee in onto the back of his knee to create a little bit of space, and then my left foot is just going to step right on his calf here and extend. Now, in one motion, I'm going to start scooping my hips in towards him, and I'm going to bring my leg around, bringing my shin to the back of his knee. And from here, I want to make sure I keep my foot flexed so it's hard for him to get his foot out, and also just so I can have better control. If I have my foot floppy here, he can start bringing his leg out from here. Now, when we go into the sweep, either we can use this as a pendulum, or we can step my foot on my other foot that's trapping his leg. If I cross my feet, sometimes you get weird scenarios where the guy tries pulling down on your foot, and then you can start getting caught in a calf crush and it starts getting uncomfortable. So from here, just start either pushing on the foot here or use your other foot as a pendulum. Once you swing him, you should end up on the back here. Once I'm here, I want to make sure I keep chest on his back here. Get the seatbelt. Have the second hook. Head close to his head so it's hard for him to move. Remember, no space, and we'll be good to go. We've got the 4 points here. We're ready to go for the finish. Okay guys, the next variation we have is now going into the leg drag off the berimbolo. The last technique we did, bringing the shin to the back of the knee and taking it back. Now instead of going there, we're going to be doing the same exact setup, except going into the leg drag, ending up on top, and looking for the guard pass. So from here, after making our grips, establishing a grip on the belt and on the ankle, we're doing the same thing, bringing him down to his butt. And I'm extending my legs, keeping it close to his hips the entire time. Now from here, I'm going to start spinning underneath, and the same setup as before. I'm going to reach across. I'm going to bring my knee to the back of his knee, giving myself space. And now I'm going to bring instead of pushing like before, I'm going to bring my shin to the back of the knee. Now from here, I'm going to start with my left hand here. I'm going to be controlling onto his hip, either onto the belt. You can hold onto the belt, the skirt of the gi, or you can grab onto the gi pants itself. Either way you feel comfortable. If the belt is available, then just grab there. And now I'm just going to start bringing my elbow down. From here, I'm going to start posting up. I'm going to start coming up on top. From here, one mistake that people make is that they start leaning too much this way. I'm going to start leaning towards my left and driving forward while still hanging onto this grip here. The reason why I like to hang onto this grip is because I'm always focused on trying to control the hip first. So from here, using my entire forearm, I'm going to pin down on his hip here, driving forward. Once I feel comfortable and once I feel like I have his hip stabilized, I'm going to start reaching for his collar, back of his collar, and bring my head to the side where I have my knee on the mat. And from here, we're in good position to pass. So again. Same thing. I'm going to be pulling him in towards me, bringing him down to his butt, and spinning underneath. So instead of taking the back from here, we're reaching across, bringing my knee to the back of his knee, and then bringing my shin behind, and just driving my knee forward. I almost want to try to go as far up on his chest as possible here. From here, my left arm is just going to come around, and my hand is going to hold onto his belt right here. I'm going to bring my arm down, clamping him right over his leg here. From here, I'm just going to start posting up, sitting up, and now I'm going to start driving towards my left, the same side that I have my knee coming towards the mat. From here, I drive to my left. I want to make sure I keep my right knee on his hip so that he can't hip escape out. And from here, just keeping the pressure down. Remember, this grip is very important. It'll keep the guy from being able to move his hips so long as we have my entire forearm down on his hip and across his stomach here. Once I feel comfortable and once I feel like I have enough pressure, my right hand is going to hold on to the back of his collar. My left hand is going to hold on to the front. I'm going to bring my elbow down right on his quad here, and I'm going to drive my elbow tight, almost trying to pinch his leg in between my hip and my elbow. From here, I want to try to bring my head to the same side I have the leg drag on. So if I have my left knee on the mat, I'm going to bring my head to the left side, trying to force him to turn his head the opposite way. Here, if I can turn here, this is where we're good to go. If you can get his head turning to the side or turning back, if his head's facing one way and his body's facing another way, it's going to be very hard for him to be mobile at all or try to go for anything to defend. And we're going to be almost in a checkmate position and ready to pass. Okay guys, so the next berimbolo variation we're going to work on is something where I like to go for when, say like the guys you're having a tough time lifting the legs, bringing them over, when you're having a tough time getting into the leg drag, there's an opportunity where the guys, if they're just laying on the side kind of, you could just simply kick back. You start to roll forward, and then we'll kick over, and we'll end up in the mounted position. So let's just show it. So same position as before. I'm going to make sure, holding on to the front of the belt here, pulling him in, bringing him towards me, taking his weight slightly off his feet, and then I'm just going to kick forward. From here, once I have my feet all the way across, make sure your feet aren't at a distance away. You're always keeping your feet in contact with his hips and his legs here. We're going to start going inverted here and keeping my head close to his hip. Say we're having a tough time getting the leg drag. Say we're having a tough time bringing him over. Say we're having a tough time bringing the knee in. We have an option of simply just posting and kicking back. Once we're here, we're in good position to just secure the mount, and we're in a good position, score 4 points, another way besides taking the back. Once we're here in the mounted position, a lot of people tend to just keep their toes on the mat, stay low back, and it's very easy for the guy to replace half guard or something like this from here. I always like to keep my toes on the mat whenever I'm in any position, whenever I'm side control or any type of top position. But for the mount, this will be the one time where I'm going to keep my laces on the mat and try to keep my toes close together. From here, if I keep my toes close together, it's going to be very hard for the guy to hip escape, and I'm not giving him any space to be able to escape his hips and replace. If I have my toes up here, this little bit of space here off the mat can give him the opportunity to replace half guard. Remember, those little spaces can make a big difference. So make sure I keep my laces on the mat. And obviously it's going to be tough to bring the toes together with him in the way, but if you can, try to bring your toes as close together as possible. Those little details will make a big difference. So once you get to the mount, make sure you stay low, laces on the mat, toes close together. One more time. Starting from the Del Hiva position, holding onto the belt, I'm going to pull him forward slightly, bring his butt to the mat. From here, I'm going to go inverted. We're having a tough time getting the leg drag. Even if I'm controlling up by the hip, even if I'm trying to bring the knee behind and it's just not working, we can simply post on the mat to give ourselves a little bit of momentum, a little bit of push, to just kick back. Make sure we don't stay here for long. Turn into him right away, and slide the knees up. From here, in the mounted position, the biggest key is not keeping the toes on the mat. Keep the laces on the mat, and keep your toes close together. From here, with the mounted position, we're in good position to obviously finish with the chokes, finish with the arm locks, and we can get the match over with. Okay guys, so the next berimbolo variation we're going to be working on is when our opponent knows how to defend. He's going to start trying to push on my chest and trying to create distance. We've been trying to focus on keeping the head close to the hip the entire time, but when that can't happen, when he makes it hard for that to happen, there's a good footlock variation that I think will work for you guys. So the same position as before. We have the Del Hiva, we have our grips. I pull him in, bring his butt down to the mat. But now once I start spinning underneath, he's going to be smart. He's going to start pushing on my chest and creating distance here. Now it's going to be very hard for me to get the berimbolo from this position. Now what I want to do, I want to try to start looking for the foot. If he's putting his foot on my chest, I have the opportunity for a foot lock. From here, my hand that was holding onto the belt is now just going to scoop underneath, and it's going to clear his foot, posting on the mat. And once his foot goes to the mat, I'm going to start grabbing onto his foot right here. And in one motion, my left arm is going to go right over, and I'm going to slide right into the footlock here. There's a few details that are very important from the footlock here. Starting with the footlock itself, many people believe that the proper way of getting a proper footlock is to use the pinky on the pinky toe here. It's not bad. For guys that don't have very flexible feet, you can finish it from there, and it will be effective. But it's not the ideal way of finishing a footlock. From here, we want to try to control right over the toes here. Once we control, that's why it's called a toe hold. We want to go over all the toes here and control just like a Kimura grip here. And when we go for the footlock, we don't want to be pulling it into him. A lot of guys are flexible. This is the direction it's supposed to be going. Bringing his foot to his knee, bringing his foot to his butt here. It might be uncomfortable. Some people will tap, but what you want to try to do is disconnect his ankle from his knee here and from his butt here. So whenever I go for a footlock, I'm going to be looking away and lifting up my left elbow here and looking for the finish. Another way of doing it, and say we're ever in a scramble situation, we can control the foot by holding on with my thumb and pointer finger here and clasping right on the ball of his foot here. So even just that squeeze right there will make it uncomfortable for your opponent. So same thing from there, getting a Kimura grip, looking away, and you can have the finish from there. Now another very important detail is where your feet are when going for the footlock. We never want to have the foot here, because then now we're going to end up in those matches where both guys are going onto the foot, and now it's just a test of wills to see who can hang on to the foot longer, who has the more flexible foot. We never want to leave that to chance, because it's 50-50 right now. If I don't have the flexible foot, he might be the one to finish me. We want to try to not only finish the footlock, but we also want to try to hide our feet so we don't get caught as well. So always make sure one foot is tucked and the other foot is on the opposite side. So even if he tries reaching across, he does not have a good angle at all. And another thing we want to make sure is that we have our knees pinched together here, so that if he tries to spin, it's going to be if he tries spinning to his right, it's going to be very difficult. And by the time he even can maneuver at all, I'm already going to have the finish. We see a lot of matches nowadays where guys try to spin, they roll out of bounds, but their mistake that they're making is that they're keeping their knee up. And when they keep their knee up, it's going to be very easy for the guy to roll. So just roll. And we could put good leverage behind it, but it's not going to be as tight as it can be. If we keep our knees locked down and our knees pinched together, it's going to be very hard for him to escape, and it's going to be easier for me to get the finish. So he can't roll, and I've got the finish from there. So one more time. We start from the del hiva, pull him in, bring him down to his butt. I'm going to start spinning underneath. He's going to start being smart and pushing right on my chest. From here, I'm going to scoop with my right hand, bring his foot to the mat. Now in one motion, I'm just going to slide my chest and my entire body right in towards his leg, hiding my right foot and bringing my left foot on the same side that I have the foot lock on. Now we have two options from here, remember. We don't want to just grab pinky to pinky here. We want to go all fingers over all toes here. That's where it's going to happen. That's why we call it a toe hold. And from here, we want to make sure we lift up my left elbow, look over my shoulder, and we have the finish from there. Either that or controlling with the thumb and pointer finger, squeezing here and looking away. And then the other part is making sure that I have my knees pinched together, my feet are hidden, and just giving him no opportunity to go for a foot himself. And if I can keep my knees pinched, it's going to be hard for him to roll. And we got the finish from there. Okay guys, so now we're going to be making a transition from the del hiva to reverse del hiva in two parts. So our first part, we're just going to focus on how to defend, how to continue to keep the del hiva. If you guys really live and die by the del hiva, how to hold it even when guys try to force you into reverse del hiva. And then what to do and how to position yourself properly once you go into the reverse del hiva. So say we're here, we want to make our grips, but most of the time when the guy tries to pass, he's going to try to come over to my left, try to force reverse del hiva. So he's going to try to step over, and most of the time he's going to try to push my leg to the mat. So as soon as he pushes, I'm going to post my foot on the mat. We don't want to stay here for long, but see, now I'm leaving my right side open for him to close the distance and possibly pass. So as soon as he pushes down my leg and I post on the mat, I want to make sure that I post and slide back right away, and then just put the foot right back on the hip. So once again, he goes, he steps over. As soon as this happens, we don't want to hesitate. We want to push away and step back on the hip. This could be a very good drill that you guys can use, where if you could just continue to step over, post, kick back. Step, post, kick back. Keeping the del hiva here. If you really want to keep the del hiva and you don't like going to reverse del hiva, then you could just keep working this drill, posting on the mat, kicking back, creating distance, and then you'll have enough space to bring the foot back on the hip. But the second part, say, in a lot of people's game, including myself, if guys push over, if guys step over, I will like going to reverse del hiva. Now how I'll do so, my left foot is going to step on the mat, and my right is going to start creating a reverse del hiva hook from here. Now, when getting the reverse del hiva hook, it's the same thing as the del hiva hook, except we're facing the inside here. I want to make sure that my foot is flexed. If I have a floppy foot, it's going to be easier for him to maneuver it around. I always want to make sure that I keep the foot flexed and tight. And from here, now I'm going to change my grips. Instead of holding on with my right hand onto the collar, my left hand is going to reach across, grab a cross collar, grab onto the sleeve with my right hand, and to create enough distance here, instead of like before with my right foot on his hip, now my left foot is going to be posted right on his shoulder here, creating enough space. And once I feel like I've created enough space here, I'm going to start posting the ball of my left foot on his hip here. So now his main option is to try to cut across. If he tries to cut across, this foot on the hip will make it very difficult from here. We can start scooping underneath, and we can start looking to take the back and get our sweeps from here. So one more time. Say if you guys don't mind going into reverse De La Riva and you are willing to switch back and forth. Once your opponent steps over, you can simply post your left foot on the mat and replace that hook with your right foot, making sure the foot is flexed and making sure it's not floppy so it wouldn't be easier for him to spin around. From here, I'm going to switch my grips. My left hand is going to hold onto the collar, while my right hand is going to hold onto the sleeve. And in one motion, I'm going to bring my foot over, so in case he tries cutting the knee across, in case he tries to close the distance, I'm going to put my left foot right on his shoulder here, keeping him from able to come closer to me. And then once I feel like I've created the distance, I've created enough space, I'm going to put my same foot, my left foot, the ball of my foot, right on his hip. And if you can try to extend, keeping the distance from here, keeping him from being able to cut his knee across. So if you try cutting your knee across, it's going to be very difficult with that foot on the hip. And then from here, we can underhook and start looking for our sweeps and back takes. Okay, now starting from the reverse De La Riva, we're going to be looking to take the back. And so let's go right into it. From here, like I said before, I always like to try to keep my distance using my left foot. Last time we were using our right foot from the De La Riva, but now once we're in reverse De La Riva facing in towards him, we always want to make sure that I'm using my left foot to keep the distance. If I don't have this foot here, it's going to be easy for him to close the gap and create problems for my guard here. So always make sure that either the foot's on the hip or on the shoulder here, creating enough space so that you feel comfortable and you can perform your own techniques. Now from here, what I like to do is extend the guy a little bit away from me, create a little bit of distance, and my right hand is going to underhook on his right leg here. Now from here, I'm going to let go of the collar. From here, most of the time, guys are going to try to pass and try to cut the knee across, so I'm just going to use this hand to post. Because I'm not going to be keeping this hand on the collar the entire time. From here, I'm going to start spinning up onto my shoulders here, and while I do that, I start reaching for his hamstring here. So I'm going to start spinning, reaching for his hamstring, and coming out the back door here. Now from here, I'm going to start looking to bring both shins behind his knees. So I'm bringing my right shin behind, and I'm already having my left shin. From here, I'm going to start reaching high up, grabbing onto the back of his belt here, and pulling his butt in, kicking the legs out, and bringing him to his butt. From here, same thing as before that we showed. Get a seatbelt right away, making sure we have good chest on back. Look for the hooks, and we're good to go. So again, starting from the reverse De La Riva position, we always want to make sure this left foot is probably the most important foot. This one, obviously you want to have good control here. This is what makes the reverse De La Riva the reverse De La Riva. But to keep our own guard, for guard retention, and for us to feel comfortable with the distance we're at, we always want to make sure that I either have the foot on the hip, with the ball of my foot on the hip. You don't want to be facing the foot outward, or else it's going to throw you off and you're going to be turning the wrong way. You want to have it turned inside, or put the foot on the shoulder, so that you can control, sorry buddy, so you can control how far or how close you want him to be. From here, I'm not going to continue to control onto this collar. I'm going to continue to just post here. My right arm is going to hook underneath. I'm going to start looking to spin underneath. Once I start spinning and coming up onto my shoulders, the hand that's posting on his chest is now just going to reach for his hamstring to help give me enough momentum to spin out the back door here. Once I'm here, I already have one shin on the back of the knee. This leg here is just going to hook around as well. From here, I always want to make sure I keep my feet flexed. Start reaching up right away to control the belt, the back of the pants, or the gi. I'm going to pull his butt in towards me, kick his legs out, and get a seatbelt grip. Now from here, I can get the hooks and start looking for the finish. Okay guys, from the reverse De La Riva, we have another sweep from a spider guard-like position. that I like a lot. So we're going to have a reverse De La Riva hook, but the other foot is now going to be on the bicep. Instead of placing on the shoulder or on the hip that we worked on previously, now we're going to focus on just having one spider guard grip. So from here, we're going to have a reverse De La Riva, but this time, instead of having it placed on the shoulder or on the hip we had before, this time we're going to place in the bicep, which is just as effective as before. From here, I'm just going to control onto both sleeves, just like a spider guard, except now I'm going to have the reverse De La Riva hook along with it. From here, we can set the guy up a lot. We're going to try to bring him over our right shoulder, but to do so, sometimes you have to set him up, especially when you go with bigger opponents. So how do we do that? We simply want to move him around, just like we moved around our grips before, throwing him off before we went to the berimbolo. We want to make sure I bring him forward a little bit, move him around, take him off balance, and then once we have the opportunity, then we go for the sweep from here. So once we have extended, we could push out a little bit. He's going to start bringing his weight back. I'm going to bring my foot directly over my head, and I'm going to dive his arm in between his two legs, and in one motion, I'm going to start rolling. Once I'm here, I'm going to stay high up on my shoulders. I'm going to continue to roll through until I end up in the top position. Most of the time, we're going to end up in the half guard, so we're going to work on a pass from here. This hand that's holding onto his sleeve here is now going to underhook. I'm going to take a short step back, overhook with my right arm, with my left arm, and I'm going to place my head on the mat right next to his head. From here, it's easy to cut through, work for the pass, and never make sure you never stay here for too long. You never want to be sitting on your side. I'm going to turn in towards him. My toes are going to be on the mat. I'm going to grab hand and arm control, and we have our 3 points for the pass. So again, make sure when you're in this position to start, you have plenty of movement. We don't want to be staying stable because guys, when they sit in one position for a while, they're going to be heavy. It's going to be, especially like I said, fighting the absolute, guys are not going to move. If you just stay here and you expect to just bring them over just by starting from here, going from 0 to 100 in a second, it's not going to work. You have to be moving them around a little bit, throwing them off balance. So as soon as we start throwing them off balance, his weight starts shifting around. Then once we feel we have the right opportunity, then we start extending. Once we're there, I'm going to extend my left leg directly over my head, and I'm going to dive his left arm in between his two legs, and as soon as I do that and I kick the leg over, I'm going to start rolling onto my right shoulder and continue to roll through until I end up on top. From here, I keep rolling until I end up in the top position. As soon as I go, I'm going to dive right underneath. I'm not going to let go and then just sit here. As soon as I let go of the grip, I'm going to dive right underneath right away. Once I have the underhook here, now I can step back, overhook, and I'm going to bring my head to my left side. Now from here, turning his head to the side. If I can turn his head to the side with my head, it's going to be very hard for him to defend his guard on his opposite side. So from here, once I can turn his head, it's going to be very hard for him to do anything to prevent the pass here. Even if he hangs onto my foot here, it's easy for me to push out, slide through, make sure we don't sit here for long, come up to my knees, toes on the mat, control head and arm, and we're good to go. Okay guys, so the next drill we're going to be working on is going from reverse De La Riva into the berimbolo. When guys sit back and there's a certain way that they like to defend, from there we have an opportunity to go for the berimbolo. So let's see. From here, when we're in reverse De La Riva, we're going to have the same exact positioning. We're going to have one foot on the shoulder or one foot on the hip, keeping the distance here, which is always very important. I want to make sure my foot is flexed so it's hard for him to move his leg much, and conveying the distance with my left foot. From here, I'm going to start spinning underneath with my right arm, underhooking. And my left hand is just going to post. I don't like to grab onto the collar here because I feel like if I pull in, I have a tendency to pull in if I control the collar. And from here, I don't want him to be closer. I'd rather have him be at a distance, stay away from me. So I'm just going to keep pushing on his chest with it. From here, I'm going to start spinning underneath, looking for the reverse De La Riva here, but my opponent's smart. He's going to sit back. From here, my right hand is now just going to transfer over and bring his leg over to my left hand here, and now we're right in the perfect position to go for the Berimbolo. From here, I'm going to start coming up, reaching for the belt, and I'm going to start spinning underneath. And now from here, you have any one of the options we've worked on for the Berimbolo already to take the back. From here, of course, we want to have chest on back here, stay tight, have a seat belt, keep the head close to the head, and we're good and we got the pack. Okay guys, one more time. Starting from the reverse De La Riva again. We want to make sure we're conveying the distance, pushing on the shoulder or on the hip, and then my second hand is going to be posting on his chest. I don't like to control the collar here because I feel like if I pull him in, I don't want him to be any closer to me than he already is. So I'm just going to make sure to post on the chest to keep him away. From here, my right arm is going to underhook, giving myself enough leverage to spin underneath. Now I'm going to start spinning underneath. My left hand is now going to start reaching for the hamstring. I'm going to keep spinning until I come out the back door. But my opponent's smart. He's going to sit back. Now I'm too far away to try to take the back off the reverse De La Riva. But from here, we do have a Berimbolo variation. From here, I'm going to push his leg down, and I'm going to reach with my left hand to control onto the ankle now. And from here, I'm going to sit up, control the belt, and I'm going to start spinning over my left shoulder. I have both feet on the hips firmly planted, and from here we can go for any one of the variations that we've been working on before. And take the back from here. Same as always, I want to make sure I have my chest on his back, getting the seat belt, having both hooks in, and we're good to go from here. Okay guys, now we're going to be working on a reverse De La Riva going into the 50-50 and looking for the sweep from there. 50-50 has a little bit of a bad reputation. It's known as a stalling position, but not many people do realize it can be an attacking position, and most importantly, when you need that match at the end of when you need those 2 points at the end of a match, 50-50 is going to help you out a lot. People will complain about it, but if it helps them win a match at the end when they need a sweep, they'll stop complaining from there. So, from here, we're going to be in reverse De La Riva. And say the guy's going to be smart. This is a situation when our opponent knows how to defend the reverse De La Riva. He knows he's got to stay back. He knows he's winning the match. And he just doesn't need to get swept. From here, going into reverse De La Riva, we're going to have the same exact grips we had. I'm going to have my foot flexed, making sure he's not moving his leg anywhere. And I want to convey the distance with 1 foot on the shoulder and 1 foot on the hip. Either way. Now from here, I'm going to hook underneath with my right arm. And I'm going to keep a distance by posting my hand on his chest. Once I start spinning, I'm going to grab onto his hamstring here to help my momentum coming across. And from here, he's going to just start leaning back, not allowing me to have a room to get to his back, or I'm too far away to reach for his back now. But from here, we really need to get going. We really need to try to get that sweep. So all we're going to do from here is I'm just going to hook my leg behind. And I'm just going to kick my right leg through, bring my left leg back, and lock into the 50-50. From here, you guys always want to make sure that you never let the guy bring his leg to this side, because then you're messing yourself up here and you're going to get caught in a leg drag here. 50-50 is when my leg is going across his hip, and his leg is going across my hip. And that's the situation we want to be in here. If you ever let his leg come across, then we're just in trouble here. So if he's ever starting to bring his leg over, always make sure you lift your hips up and you bring it across right away and tuck it behind your armpit here. So from here, you just sit up. One way to sweep is just to try to turn your hips and bring them off balance by bringing a hook in. One more time. From here, in reverse De La Riva, we need to get that sweep. We need to get those 2 points at the end of a match. So once we start spinning underneath, posting, controlling the hamstring here, coming through, he starts sitting back. He's smart. He knows that I want to try to take his back. So from here in one motion, trying to take the back, it's not going to work. I'm just going to, instead of trying to kick through here, I'm going to kick my leg through and force him into 50-50. And make sure that you bring his ankle underneath your armpit here. Never let it stay here, for then you're giving him the opportunity to start bringing you into a leg drag position here, and now you're just going to be playing defense. Always make sure that you have his leg going across your hip here to avoid from him being able to pass. Now from here, we have to move, trying to look for the sweep, trying to look for the back take to help win the match at the end. Okay, so now we're going to be going from reverse del hiva to the 50-50, and instead of looking for the sweep, we're going to be looking for the back. So, when we're here, we're going to be doing the same thing as we did before, same entry into getting into the 50-50. Here, spinning around, the guy leans back a little bit. I try to take his back, but he's leaning back, which is smart on his part, so it's going to be hard for me. So instead, especially in those last few minutes when we need points, we're just going to look to go into 50-50. But obviously the sweep is, most people are going to understand. All you have to do really is try to use your hips. Once you use your hips into it, use your leg as a pendulum, it's easy to sweep and come up on top. All you have to have is good hip movement, good power throwing into it. But if we just went over this, it wouldn't be too exciting to go over. And watching a match like this isn't too exciting either. So if we do have time, if we don't need the points right away, looking for the back is obviously the best option, because then we want to put ourselves in the best position to win. We don't want to play 50-50 the entire time and leave things up to chance. Sometimes you might be behind by that one advantage. You might just fall and you might lose the match just being stuck in this position. So if we have the opportunity, if we have the time, let's look to get to an advantageous position, which is obviously taking the back. From here, one way to off-balance the guy is by letting go of the 50-50 figure four here, and my left hook is just going to go right on his left quad here. And what this will do is we'll take him off balance. At first, when I have the 50-50 here, he's got a good solid base. There's not really much that's throwing him off. But once I'm here, me bringing my right leg to my left and just having this other leg here kind of throws him off balance. He's not going to be as stable as he once was. And with that, my right hand is now going to control the back of his belt here. Once we're here, I'm going to start bringing my foot out. I'm going to bring my knee in and slide. Just like before, we've worked on before. Bringing my shin to the back of the knee here. And just like before, we could just kick out, end up on his butt, grab the seatbelt, get both hooks, and we have the 4 points for the back. So now, instead of just being satisfied with getting the 2 points and have him possibly sweep me back where we go back and forth, now I can take the back and have the opportunity to finish the match. So one more time, starting from reverse del hiva. The same thing as always. I always like to keep the foot on the shoulder or on the hip, keeping him at a distance. Also keeping at a distance is my hand posting on his chest here. Instead of controlling the collar and completely negating my foot on the hip here and pulling him in, I'm just going to use this hand to post on his chest here and keep him at a distance. From here, with my right arm underhooking, I'm going to start spinning underneath. And once I start spinning underneath, my hand is going to go to the hamstring here, and I'm going to come out the back. But the guy is smart. He knows to keep back, and we need to get into position to start scoring some points. So from here, we go into 50-50. Once we're here, instead of always looking for the sweep to go back and forth, we have an opportunity to take the back. How do we do that? We start off by bringing my left hook on the front, on the quad of his left leg. And from here, my right hand is going to hold on to his belt here. From here, I'm going to start bringing my right foot out and start looking to bring my knee in. I'm going to bring my knee in towards his butt and then slide down towards his shin here. So I have shin to the back of his knee here, and I can start pulling him in and kicking out. So I pull in, kick out, grab onto the seatbelt. Always make sure you get the seatbelt first before you get the hooks. So if you have a tough time getting both hooks in, at least you have good control. You have your chest on his back. From here, we get both hooks, and we're good to go with 4 points on the back. So now, instead of just scoring 2 points, we're taking the back, and now we have an opportunity to get the submission.